Hello and welcome to the series of history videos done by Not a class that will be focusing itself on the A-level history syllabus predominantly. I'm Kanlu Dharmapre, and before we dive in, there's a little something I'd like to bring your attention to, which is the subject of history is vast, and you're always encouraged to ask questions from us in the comment section. But these videos will primarily be focused upon explaining and describing the theoretical parts of history that's required for your exam as a subject, and would be helpful for all of you to listening in to take down notes of what I say, since the slides of the presentation are the basic summarization of what I will be teaching you. So, moving forward, our first lesson would be sources of history. This will be a basic introduction to what history is and what historical sources stand for. What is history and what are historical sources? History is the cumulative term given to the happenings of the past from the immediate to the very origin of the universe. In simple human terms, everything you do will be a part of the past, and historians take this past and analyze the entire thing as a whole to find out answers to answer modern day questions. The subject of history is actually the key to understanding the present and the future, as seen through certain episodes throughout history. The very basic, simplest reasons for conflicts and disputes are similar in every given circumstance. Knowing one's history gives you the added advantage of having prior knowledge of how and why certain individuals act, and it helps you to resolve conflicts before they even occur by looking at past incidents and the steps taken to resolve them. When studying history as a subject, having an open mind and critical thinking is very important. We define history through information we gain through historical sources. These include stories and folk tales to inscriptions and ruins. Historians use these to make assumptions and prove them through cross verification. For ease of understanding, we have divided the historical sources into two categories: literary sources and archaeological sources. Literary sources: the documents and stories written by people in prose overs from ancient times onwards. There will be a separate video done on literary sources later on, but for now, a basic summarization of what literary sources means. Literary sources are important for us to set up timelines. For example, if you take a certain situation and compare on how it is viewed in four different perspectives in four different chronicles, you may be able to build up an accurate perception of how and where and when it happened. For example, King Vijaya's arrival to Sri Lanka is said in the Mahamsa to be based to be on the date of the Parirvan of the Buddha, and that is conflicted in Deepavamsa, saying it happened after the Parirvan of the Buddha. And a comparative look of these two would get us to an average possible time where the actual event happened. Next, to understand the socio-economic and the political situation of the country. Now, to understand this, you have to understand what an archaeological source encompasses. An archaeological source, yes, you may have seen all these huge castle ruins, building ruins, certain recreations. All these do not capture the very essence of what it was like to live in the past. Yes, it does give you a more accurate understanding of how people used to live, but it does not give you a feel of what people thought, of the people's mindset, of people's life. Literary sources capture that very well. For example, a good example for this is Mahavamsa. We will be doing a separate video on Mahavamsa as well, but for now, Mahamsa is seen by most critics as a biased novel. Yes. Mahamsa is seen as a biased novel because of its tendency to make King Duttogamunu the hero. But then again, in a critical way, if you think about this, this also proves that the people at the time believed King Tutankhamun to be a hero. It's not the biasness of the author that hinders the credibility of the novel or the chronicle. What what the biasness shows us is that the people of the time saw King Tutankhamun as a hero. That's how the socio-economic and the political situation of the country can be seen much more intrinsically in literary sources than archaeological sources. To explore foreign relations of the country, by using different foreign texts about Sri Lanka, we can understand about one, trade, two, marriage relationships, three, invasions. Foreign invasions have been a big part of the country, especially to the end of Polonnaruwa. And it's important that we not only talk about the local sources but also the foreign sources, because these sources gives us a proper understanding of what and how other countries viewed us as. And literary sources are divided into two categories as foreign and local literary sources. More on that later on. Then we have archaeological sources. Everything ranging from epigraphy, coins to ruins. Epigraphy is another word for inscriptions, and inscriptions are letters written down for other people, for the people in the future to read and understand why something was done. Any physical evidence of a historical scenario is categorized under archaeological sources. Archaeological evidence is usually dug up through excavations. Excavations is an important part of the archaeological sources, and will be talking about it explicitly. But excavations, in its own way, a little introduction to excavation, is where a team of archaeologists go and dig up a certain area where they assume, based on a hypothetical situation of the scientific method, using the scientific method, they assume that a certain area might have historical artifacts buried under the ground, and they dig up the area to find out these historical artifacts. It is not the most efficient way, since one of the main rules of excavations is an excavation is a destruction of nature, and one should immediately stop it the moment you see failure. And not every excavation is a successful one. Archaeological sources verify what we learn from literary sources. A good example for this would be that ancient chronicles mention about how kings of the Anuradhapura era used to have a certain taxation system for harbors, and this taxation system is properly seen in the Baudulu pillar inscription, which explains how merchants were charged taxes, and there were laws explaining on how and what could be sold in the harbor markets. Archaeology is a different branch of history and is much more comprehensive in its analysis of proof of occurrence. Historians and archaeologists differ based on their assumptions. Historians like to make theories, and archaeologists go out into the open field and test them out. That is where they are most different. Historians would sit and they would make theories and theorize and make hypotheses about what could have happened. Archaeologists take that hypothesis and put it into action in the real world to see and verify that thesis. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. We will be coming back with another video very soon. And do not forget to press the subscribe button. See ya.